Everybody to our jobs forum panel this evening. For those of you who don't know me, I'm Professor at Auerbach, and I think most of you are in my class, so you better know me at this point. We're very fortunate to have two of our panelists right now, but Barbara Boxer will be joining us shortly as soon as she gets a few tech issues out of the way. And the goal for this evening's panel is for US students to get a chance to engage with people who have had truly impressive careers in politics. Some at the state level, some at the federal level, and a little in between. All three of our panelists have spent cumulatively decades between the three of them in the world of politics. And so tonight's a chance to hear from them about what it was like to enter politics and how they became successful, things that they might have done differently, things that helped catapult their careers to where it is today. So before I do some brief introductions, let me go through how the format's gonna run for this evening. After I do some brief introductions, I'm gonna go ahead and moderate the panel for 30 minutes, Q&A between the panelists and myself. That'll take us to about 5:30. And then we are gonna break out each of the panelists into a breakout room, and students who have been pre-selected to be placed in a breakout room. We'll all go into a breakout room with our respective fellows, and you'll have 15 minutes just to have a casual conversation on really any topic of your choosing. So start thinking about things you might want to know from any of our panelists, but it is a unique opportunity for you to engage with our fellows in a tight-knit, unique environment. After that breakout room time is up, we'll come back together and we'll have about 10 minutes left for some Q&A, for perhaps some questions that you either didn't have a chance to ask your fellow that you're in the breakout room with, or one of the other panelists that you were not in their breakout room. So before we get to introductions, a quick reminder for my traditional 395 students. By now, each of you has received back your research proposal. If you have not, please email me. Sometimes Blackboard does some weird stuff and doesn't send out those proposals like I like. So you've gotten some feedback on the proposal. Just know that the next assignment, which is your outline and annotated bibliography, is due October 23rd at 5 p.m. You are gonna want to start working on that sooner than later. That's a little less than 3 weeks from now. And it does take more work than the proposal assignment. It's much more involved. So look for that email that I sent out earlier. There's an attached example that can help guide you through the process of building out your outline and annotated bibliography. All right, well, let me do some introductions. And when Senator Boxer arrives, I don't believe she's here yet, we'll go ahead and do an introduction on her. So first we have former US Representative Mimi Walters, and thank you for being with us, Mimi. She served for California's 45th District, which is down in Orange County. And while in Congress, she served on the House Energy and Commerce Committee, as well as the House Ethics Committee. Prior to being elected to Congress, she served in the California State Senate, as well as the California State Assembly. So thank you for being here. Former California State Treasurer John Chung is also with us. He was the state treasurer for 4 years, where he oversaw literally trillions of dollars, as you can imagine, of dollars of transactions in California being such a large state. And prior to serving as the state treasurer, he served 7 years as the California state or Los Angeles state controller, and was elected to the California Board of Equalization for 2 terms. So thank you both for being here today. I appreciate that. So again, let me just reemphasize, the goal for tonight is for students to be able to hear sort of your path, your journey, but more than just that, sort of the sort of pivotal aspects that really helped carve your path towards successful time in politics. And maybe we'll start with Mimi. I wonder if you could talk a little bit with the students about what that looked like for you.
Well, thanks for having me. I'm really enjoying my time with the USC students, so appreciate you inviting me this evening. Well, first of all, my career really started back in high school. I was new to high school, didn't have any friends. I was a very shy person. And I decided to get involved in student government as a way to meet people. And when I was a sophomore, I decided that I was going to run for junior class president. And, you know, you always run at the end of your year. And so I ran for junior class president. Fortunately, nobody ran against me. So I won. And then my junior year, I decided that I wanted to run for student body president, but my best friend wanted to run for student body president. So I decided that I was going to run for senior class president because I didn't want to run against her. And ended up running against a really super popular guy. And I thought there was no way I was going to win because it was sort of a popularity contest. But I was dating the star of the basketball team. So I think that helped me a lot. Ended up
So
winning.
that's the key to politics.
Exactly. Ended up winning that race. And when I was a senior at Dana Hills High School, I had heard of this program in college, and I ended up going to UCLA where you could intern on Capitol Hill. And when I was a freshman at UCLA, I decided to apply for the internship program, and I went to DC as a sophomore and worked for a congressman from Bakersfield. His name, he's since retired, Bill Thomas, but had an amazing time. And that was the fall of 1981. And Reagan had just been elected president, and I'm a Republican. And so that was really exciting for me. I interned on Capitol Hill, came back to UCLA, got involved in student government, actually ran the elections for the student body at UCLA my senior year, and knew someday I wanted to run for office. It was just in my blood. I didn't come from a family of politicians or public servants, but it was something in me that wanted to pursue a career in public service. But had to get a job. I wanted to get married. I wanted to have a family. So one by one, I was checking the boxes. And in 1996, pregnant with my fourth child, I decided to go for it. And I ran for city council in the city of Laguna Niguel, which is the city I grew up in. And I remember I hyphenated my name because people knew me as Mimi Krogius, but my married name was Walters. And so I hyphenated my name saying Mimi Krogius Walters, thinking people would know me because that's where I grew up. And my husband was like, I can't believe you're hyphenating your name. You're Mimi Walters. Even to this day, he still teases me. But it didn't work because I lost the election anyway. So I ended up losing, but got appointed. Fortunately, we had a vacancy on the Laguna Niguel City Council, and got appointed and ended up serving 8 years. Then ran for the state assembly, won that race, ran for the state senate, won that race, and then had an opportunity to run for Congress. And I won, and then I ended up losing in 2018. But it was just something that was in my blood. I wanted to do it. I had a passion for it, and I just went for it. And so grateful I did, and so grateful for the opportunity that I had to serve the people in California. It was an unbelievable experience. And I highly recommend, if any of you ever decide that you want to run for office, that you just go for it because it's extremely rewarding.
Great, thank you, great comments. John, how about you? Any thoughts on sort of one or two things that you really saw as pivotal as making your path into politics and on the way up to being the California State Treasurer?
So mine wasn't by design, and Art, thank you for this opportunity to join with all of you. And like Mimi, and I'm sure Barbara, it's been an incredible joy to work with the students during the semester at USC. My passion was actually, I wanted to be a civil rights lawyer. Like many Taiwanese immigrants who come to this country because of the culture, my mom wanted me to become a medical doctor, not even a medical doctor, she wanted me to become a surgeon. And so at age 6, because we were the first Asian Pacific American family in our community in suburban Chicago, we faced invidious discrimination. So just watching TV back at that time, watching the civil rights struggle, watching Martin Luther King a little bit, I was still very, very young in years, and Cesar Chavez, I wanted to get into civil rights. I just wanted to fight for the dignity, decency, frankly, for my parents. They struggled with their English language, and just to watch people treat them poorly, I just thought that was incredibly wrong. And so fortunately, I had a great first grade teacher, Mrs. Elk, who protected us. There was a Polish American city council member that defended our family against discrimination. My mom was really tough. She made us study during the summer. So we would study like 5 to 8 hours and play piano the rest of the day. One of the books I read in junior high school was the autobiography of Malcolm X. And there's a passage in there about oppressive, repressive, and suppressive governments. And I told my mom, you run an oppressive, repressive, and suppressive regime in this house. And then to get away when I was age 11, I was watching the Watergate hearings, and I was just absolutely fascinated. Alexander Butterfield, Sam Dash, Father Robert Drinan, who was sort of my hero. I was raised Catholic. So here you have a priest with 6 degrees, very highly educated, foremost expert on international human rights. I was born in New York, so I'm a Yankees fan. So the only thing wrong was he was a Red Sox fan. So I said, hey, I want to grow up, be a member of Congress, for a moment, but I actually wanted to be a civil rights lawyer. So I wanted to be Thurgood Marshall. And so I didn't have a design for running for office, and actually ran for office just because my friends told me to do so. I was the chief of staff for Brad Sherman, who was the chair of the Board of Equalization. Brad was elected to the United States House of Representatives, where he served with Mimi and Senator Boxer. That seat became open. I was going to go work for a financial firm, base salary back then, and I had massive law school debt, mortgage, used car debt. Base salary was $150,000 with an average salary $375,000 in that division. I was thinking, oh, I want to get out of debt. But then all my friends said, John, if you run for that office, you'll win. Then they said, you put in all this time for community service, why don't you give it a go? And then I was talking to my old boss who had made the offers. She said, you could always come back and work for me later on and make some money, but go ahead and give it a go.
Wow, good for you. Good for you. Wonderful. We have been joined on the call by Senator Barbara Boxer. Thank you, Barbara, for giving us your time. We really appreciate that. And we certainly understand technological issues too.
Took a minute or two.
You're fine. You're fine. Let me do a brief introduction, if I will. And then the initial question I've asked all the panelists is just 1, 2 moments in time during your political career that you really think made that difference to sort of take you to the stage that you were ultimately able to achieve in your success in politics, to give the students sort of a vision of your path. So I think Senator Barbara Boxer served the U.S. Senate for 24 years, Congress for 10 years, and on the Marin County Board of Supervisors. Interesting, when I was looking at your background, I think you were maybe lived in Green Bay, is that correct?
Correct.
Correct. I was born in Green Bay.
No way.
I kid you, I couldn't believe it when I saw it. 242 North Almanar Lane. I had to memorize that so that my mom would let me.
That's my street.
Yeah, that's if I didn't memorize that, my mom wouldn't let me walk to school.
Yeah, but that's the street I lived on.
Oh, you're kidding me. Really?
86 North Almanar. Stop.
I'm not kidding.
Craziness.
Well, the good news is I'm still a Giants fan. The bad news is the Giants aren't in the playoffs. So beyond that, I'll move on. While serving in the Senate, Senator Boxer worked on several key committees, including the Environment and Public Works Committee, Foreign Relations Committee, and the Senate Ethics Committee. So give the class a sense of sort of what helped move you through your path to get to where you were able to be in the Senate and Congress for such a lengthy period of time.
Okay, so first of all, I'm a lot older than Mimi and John. My path was so impossible to even contemplate that I never contemplated it in a million years. I was product of public schools. I was the daughter of an immigrant. My mother was born in Poland, Austria, Poland, whatever it was at the time. The family escaped prejudice. My mother never graduated from high school. She's one of the smartest people I ever met. And she kept everything together while my dad went to college at night and law school at night. And so I was very interested in economics, politics not on my brain, nowhere, not even in my thoughts, and graduated with a degree in economics and a minor in poli-sci. So I certainly connected the dots between, who's making the decisions. That I did do. But I was a stockbroker. It was a big thing to even get there as a woman. It was, we don't have time, but it was tough, but I did it. And then we moved from New York to California. We had our 2 kids, and the Vietnam War was raging. And all of a sudden I said, wait, do I really want to be a stockbroker? I got to do something about this. This is wrong, 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 wrong. And so I spun around on a dime, and I would take the kids to the peaceful demonstrations. And then I connected the dots, as I'm telling my students to. And I love teaching them, they give me hope. I connected the dots between ending this war and who was voting on this war. And it sounds simple, but you know, it takes a minute to figure it out. So without going into too much detail about all the rest of the struggle, I ran for office, and like Mimi, I lost my first time. I didn't use my middle name, which was Barbara Levy. Levy was my name. I just went straight to Boxer because it was such a great name. Because everyone said, you're a fighter, you've got the perfect name. I said, thank you, Stuart. So I lost my first time, and I want to say this to the students. You may lose your first time or your second time. And you have to know, if you do lose, don't give up if it's something you want. Focus again. It's a humbling experience, and you learn from it. But after I lost my race, I became a newspaper reporter, and I ran for supervisor, and I got to report on the guy who beat me, which was very cool because, of course, I had a great platform, and then I ran again and won. But before I ran again, 4 years later, John Burton hired me. He was in the Congress, and I was working for him as his communications person, a field rep, and all of that. It was wonderful. There's so many jobs you students can think about in politics. And then when he had a terrible drug problem, he retired, and he called me up, and it was like 3 days to decide. He said, do you want to run for the House? And my kids, you know, we had a family meeting, and we all said, okay, we'll do it. We don't have much of a chance. We'll do it. We won 5 times for the House. And then I said, I got to get out of the House. It was becoming too partisan for me. So I ran for the Senate, and was not going to win. Anytime I ran, 4 times, I was always going to lose. And we won 4 statewide. And the last point I want to make is to the students, don't say you want to be something. Say you want to do something. And all of us can tell you certain things were really passionate to us, to our heart. So think about what it is you want to do, and then people will see you as a leader.
Great, wonderful, wonderful comments. Let me go back to Mimi for a second. Mimi, you know, with all of your breadth of experience and sort of lived your trek up to the House, what's the one thing that you know now that you wish you knew when you were these students' age? What's that? I always like to ask, right, what's that one nugget that, man, you sort of learned along the way, but maybe we can give it to the students now to help them along their path?
Be careful what you say and do in your life today, because it will come back to haunt you if you run for public office in the future. It's a lot more difficult today than it was when the 3 of us were running for office, because we didn't have social media. But now with social media, you have to be careful of what you post. You have to be sure that you're an upstanding citizen, because when you run for office, your opponent will do opposition research on you, and everything that's public will come out. And if you have done something in your past and you know it's going to come out, you're better off getting out ahead of it in your campaign, because the voters are willing to forgive you if they know about it. But if you've done something and you lie about it, they're not going to forgive you. But they will forgive you, because we're all human, that if you just own up to it. So I wish that I had somebody tell me that you need to really be careful with what you do. Now, fortunately, I mean, there's not a lot of stuff in my past, thank goodness, but my kids, and I've got 4 of them, I have told them, I look at some of their posts on social media, and I have one of my children wants to run for office someday, and I said, you better take that post down right now. And he says to me, Mom, it's just a joke. People know it's a joke. I said, it might be a joke to you, but it's not a joke to people out there. So he listened to me, he took it down. But that's something that I would advise everybody if you think about running for office, and I wish I had known.
John, how about you? Any nuggets that you picked up along the way?
So this isn't from politics. This is actually the lesson my mom just imparted all the time. She just said, pick great friends. The life of politics, life in general can be incredibly challenging. It can be hard. So you want people who are going to be supportive, who are going to be there. There's also this Stanford study, the people that you have in your life impact your access to information. And access to information is access to opportunity. The difference, we talk about this wealth inequality, and all these other things, we see this incredible opportunity gap. So whether it's your immediate friends or having great professors at USC or great employers, try to close that gap as quickly as possible. One of the things in my first week in office, my sister was kidnapped and then she was murdered. It was heartbreaking. So absolutely devastating for the family. But the good thing about my sister was she more than anybody else I know in my life was really good at closing the gap between her and her friends. So just to this day, and she left this good earth in the late 90s. They're still contributing to Smith College. They're still contributing to Georgetown Law for scholarships to bring young, promising women educational opportunities because she just so touched them.
Wow. Barbara, what do you see as making, what kind of characteristic or personality maybe makes a candidate successful in this day and age? It seems like it's so painfully difficult to weave your way through politics. It's so divisive right now, and there's so many good people. I will tell you, I completely agree with your assessment about this generation, is that I think they give us hope. And that being said, there is this very anachronistic system put in place that still plays by a lot of old rules. Any words of wisdom for what makes a candidate successful in this day and age?
Yes, first I want to totally agree with what Mimi said and what John said. I mean, those are words of wisdom. In the age of social media, which, I really didn't run in this age of super social media. So, but it's absolutely such a great warning. Look, if you're going to stand by what you said, stand by what you said, but don't be shocked if somebody digs it up. I don't care how many years ago it is. So Mimi, that was brilliant. That was a good bit of advice. And John, I take John's point about family, and of course it takes your breath away to think of the losses, but when you decide to do something like this, look, you're putting yourself out there. And it's a 50-50 chance you could lose, folks. It's not, nothing is guaranteed, right? So you have to be strong. And you've got to think about it before you decide to run. Am I strong enough to take defeat? There was a very interesting book that was written by a psychologist. Mimi, this would interest you. Before you got to the House, there were so few women in the House that got elected in their own right. Most of them came there because their husbands kicked the bucket, I hate to say it, and they just ran on the husband's name. But when we all started running, and then Mimi was part of that continuum, we got there on our own. And, it's very, very difficult. And you have to be ready for everything that is thrown at you because you're a little bit different than everybody else. The importance of family and friends to stand by you if you lose cannot be overstated. If I didn't have my family stand by me when I lost the first time, I never would have run the second time. But the study that I wanted to share is that this woman, psychologist, did a study of all the women were in the House. There were only 23 of us at the time. And out of the 23, probably 13 made it on their own. You know what they found out? This is so interesting. she found out that most of the women by far went to girls' schools. That was incredibly fascinating. And they went to girls' schools. In those years, it helped them, you know, they didn't have to get put down by boys. This happens less now than it did, for sure. But in those olden days, that's what it was. And she talked about something, and I'll close with this, called inner applause. And what is inner applause? Inner applause comes when you face anything bad in life. It doesn't have to be losing a race, although a couple of us did lose. Inner applause comes when you're going through a hard time. Maybe you didn't do well on an exam. Maybe the teacher scolded you, you didn't pay attention, whatever it is. You take it, and you inside you feel someone is saying, it's okay, you're good. And what she found is all of us women who were in that situation, somewhere in our lifetime, we had the inner applause, whether it was our mom or dad or sister, brother, or a religious leader or a friend or the school. And I think we all should strive to have, whatever we go into, that inner applause, knowing it will get us through. We're all going to lose at one point, not necessarily lose a race for politics, but we're going to lose something, and it's going to be hard for us, and it's going to be humiliating and defeating. Are we going to spin back from that? If we have the inner applause, we're going to get right back on our feet.
Very good. Wonderful comments from the three of you. We're now going to shift to our breakout sessions, and just to remind Barbara,
Yeah.
I did a mention of
God,
this.
technology. Harry.
You don't have to do anything, Barbara. Harry's going to take care of it all.
It'll just,
So,
it'll just do it on automatic.
Just for any students that came in a little late, we're going to break out each of you into one of three rooms. You're pre-designated. This is an opportunity just to have a conversation with our panelists. I promise you they won't bite. They're all wonderful, wonderful, kind people who are giving their time not just to their classes, but to panels like this and other incredibly valuable experiences through the Center for Political Futures. So we're going to break out for 15 minutes.